Who are the Chicago Blackhawks going to trade at this year's trade deadline? Let's get into it. They got a few options. They have a few key guys with only a year left on their deal that are going to be really, really good targets for other teams, contenders going into the playoffs this year. Welcome back to the Blackhawks Conversation. My name's Ryan McGregor. If you're new here, I'm here after every single Chicago Blackhawks game doing an in-depth analysis post-game show. I'm also live on YouTube for pretty much every single Chicago Blackhawks game. Should be every single game going forward. So that's a lot of fun. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. Yeah, so today's topic, obviously, we're in the Olympic break now. There's no games on right now. So I thought we would just talk about topics around the Hawks. And today I want to talk about who's likely to get moved and who's likely not to get moved at this upcoming trade deadline. Now, we had sort of a soft trade deadline before the Olympic break. Back on Wednesday at, I believe it was 3 p.m. Eastern, was the sort of roster freeze. So we had sort of a mini trade deadline there. Obviously, Artemi Panarin got moved, but the Hawks didn't make any moves. Not totally surprising, but they do have guys that we fully expect. And when I say we, I mean the Blackhawks fan community, as well as just the league-wide fans, sort of expect to get moved. Two guys that are obvious are Connor Murphy and Jason Dickinson. But it kind of goes beyond them. Um, I'll start by listing the guys who do have a year left in their deal. That would be interesting. You have Sam Lafferty, Nick Foligno, Ilya Mikheyev, Matt Grzelcyk, Jason Dickinson, and Connor Murphy. So you have six guys that could potentially get moved. Obviously, the Hawks could move anybody, but likely being sellers at the deadline, it'll be guys with a year left. So let's start with two of the most likely guys, or let's start with one of them in Connor Murphy. Now, Connor Murphy is he's the longest tenured Blackhawk right now. He's making $4.4 million this season. Of course, he's expiring in the offseason. And he's a really good third pairing, stay at home defensive defenseman. Although, if you've watched the Chicago Blackhawks in the calendar year of 2026, you'll know that he has 4 goals, which is absolutely absurd. 4 goals in 2026, and his total on the season is 4. So he scored 3 of them in January. So he's been on a bit of a heater lately. He's had the hot stick, and if you're a team that's acquiring Connor Murphy, I mean, you're not acquiring him for offense. This is extremely unusual for him to get 4 goals in a month, and what was it? A month and like 3 days or something when he scored. Um, yeah, he's the most likely to go. Um, he's very valuable. He's a right shot defenseman, which just makes him even more valuable. He's a veteran. He's experienced. And he's just a great guy to have on your team. He's also just very good to have in the locker room. And if you're a team that's acquiring him, I mean, you got to know in Chicago, he's the epitome of what you want a player to be in the community. He's always so active in the community. He's very active with the fire department, the police department, and fans of the community. He's just an all around really good guy that you want to have in the locker room. But obviously, if you're a team acquiring him at the deadline, you're probably acquiring him for what he can do for you on the ice. And he's just that. He's the safe option. You know what you're getting out of him night in and night out. He's not gonna be a liability out there, and he's gonna get the job done defensively, and you can match him up against you know the offensive top guys, and you probably wouldn't do that if you're a contender who gets him, but you can. Um, as far as and he's the most likely to go, and as far as what the Hawks could expect to get back, I mean, when you look at Connor Murphy just as Connor Murphy, you don't necessarily think that much. I mean, he's probably not worth a ton in a trade. He's certainly not worth like a first round pick, obviously. But when you look at the context of the trade deadline this year, and the fact that he is a right handed defenseman, and that there's just not many options on the table, and guys are already going. You had the Rasmus Anderson trade happen already. I think his value is higher right now. It helps that he's scoring goals, but I think his value is high right now, and I think the Hawks should hold out, and I think Kyle Davidson should hold out. He should at least be expecting, I would say, a third round pick. But you got to think, like, if Kyle Davidson holds out until the last minute and teams start to get desperate, somebody could get a little crazy and offer you a second, maybe even a first. I mean, not that that's what you should expect for Connor Murphy. I'm not saying Connor Murphy any day of the year could go get that sort of return, but I'm saying in the context of this trade deadline and sort of the situation the league and some of the teams in the league are in this year, I don't think it's crazy. And um I feel like every year at the trade deadline, we look at a trade and we say, what the hell was that GM thinking? Why would he give that up for that player? And Connor Murphy could be that this year, as he's one of, off the top of my head, one of the only right-handed defensemen really available um, that can play his role. Off the top of my head, I can't think. You could be frying me in the comments right now. There could be an obvious one, but off the top of my head, I can't think of one. So I think for Connor Murphy, I mean, you should expect maybe a third, and if Kyle Davidson plays his cards right and you retain, who knows? Some a GM could get crazy and throw you a second or a first. And again, Hawks fans, don't expect it. Don't hold your breath on that. It's just speculation. I mean, you never know, right? The next guy who's most likely to go is Jason Dickinson, another long tenured Hawk. He's got a year left, making 4.25. He is a solid bottom six defensive centerman. Um, you know what you're getting in terms of he's pretty good on the dot. He has his off nights like everybody, but he's usually pretty good on the dot. He's a guy that the Hawks actively use night in and night out against other teams' top scoring lines. He can shut them down. He's done it. He continues to do it this year. He'll chip in for a goal every now and then. You're again like Connor Murphy. You're not getting him for the offense, but he can play that sort of penalty killing depth defensive center role. Who again, you know what you're getting out of him when you put him on the ice. It's the safe choice, and like I said, he can shut down other teams' top lines, top scorers, and I think he's another guy that's really valuable. And again, like I don't know what the Hawks' plan is here, but he's another guy. Like if you retain half, and you're making a team only pay a hair over $2 million for this guy, I think you can fetch a similar return to Connor Murphy. I don't know about teams getting desperate and offering a first, like I mentioned with Connor Murphy, because I feel like centers are a bit more accessible maybe this season. Veteran centers with a 1 year left, or really any center with a 1 year left. But I think the Hawks should be expecting somewhat similar value, and it's tough analyzing returns here too because I'm kind of just speculating draft picks because what else do the Hawks need? I mean, their prospect pool is is overflowing. Um, I mean, you can never have too many prospects, but it's not an area where they're in need, even positionally. I mean, they kind of have people everywhere, maybe a winger, but um, they don't really need anything, and they're not going to want to get a roster player back. And not that that's even something a buying team would want to give back if they're trying to add to their team, but that's not even something the Hawks would want because part of the reason they're trading these guys is because you have Nick Lardis, you have Anton Frondell coming, you have guys in the minors, you have Ethan Del Mastro, Kevin Korchinski, who need NHL time, and that's a part of the reason why you're selling these guys at the deadline. They could very well just hold on to them. Again, like I said, they don't need picks and prospects. They have an abundance. Um, and that's another reason I think Kyle Davidson has some leverage here. But yeah, so my speculation's kind of all just going to be draft picks because I don't know what else you target if you're the Blackhawks. If you think there's certain guys out there they should be targeting, by all means, let me know. Um, but yeah, so and then you kind of have four guys, sorry, who could go, could not. There's one guy on here I will riot if they trade. So let's start with Matt Grizzlick. Matt Grizzlick, if I had to guess, if I had to speculate, I would predict they're not going to trade Matt Grizzlick. And I think because Connor Murphy is as good as gone. Usually that's said as in like a negative connotation, but I mean that, well. Um, Connor Murphy's going to get traded. So that leaves Matt Grizzlick as your last standing veteran defenseman. So for that reason, I could see them holding on and trading Murphy and Yeah, they're only opening up one spot on the back end, but at least it's one spot. Um, so Matt Grzelcyk's a guy I could see them holding on to. I could also see them re-signing him for next season. I mean, he's been fine this year. He's only making $1 million. He's done his job fine. He had a really rough start to the year. I remember Hawks fans wanted to run this guy out of town at the start of the year, but as the season has gone on, he's been pretty good, and he's been relatively reliable back there, and he can chip in for some offense too. He runs the second power play. So I could see the Hawks wanting to keep this guy around, especially um, if you hold on to him at the deadline, the season plays out, and some of those guys like Rinzel or Lev Shinov still aren't quite there. I could see them holding on to him because you don't really want to go into the season next year having no veteran defenseman. I mean, Alex Vlasic would be, I think he would be 25 going into next year. If not, he'd be 24 turning 25. But that would be your oldest guy on the back end. So I'm kind of up in the air with Matt Grzelcyk. If they move him, fine. I don't really care. If they keep him, I'm okay with it too, because then you have at least one veteran defenseman on the back end that you can go to if somebody isn't panning out or needs more time in the AHL. And that's what we saw this year. People were upset when Matt Grzelcyk got brought in this year, but then Renzel needed AHL time. Levshinov had to sit a few nights. Korchinski wasn't ready. You needed Matt Grzelcyk. So for that reason, I can actually see them holding on to him and potentially giving him another contract. Then you have Ilya Mikheyev. Now, this is the guy they better not trade. I don't think they're going to, although Ilya Mikheyev could definitely fetch you a quality draft picker prospect, but I don't think they should trade this guy. And this has been a hot button topic in the Blackhawks community lately amongst fans. Most people that I've seen, at least in the Blackhawks community, want the Hawks to hold on to this guy. Some people don't. Um, and the people who don't, it's purely for the sake of roster spots because, you know, veterans like Bertuzzi, Donato, Burakovsky, Teravainen, they're going to be taking up spots next year, and people seem to want every spot on the team to go to a young guy, but that's just not realistic, especially if you have an all youth decor next year. Um, but for me, you don't keep Ilya Mikheyev around to take up a roster spot because roster spots are valuable next season and on the back end of this season. You keep him around for what he brings. I mean, the Blackhawks, the Chicago Blackhawks, one of the worst teams in the NHL. Yes, they've made a huge step forward this year, but if you look at the overall standings, they still are near the bottom. Um, have the number one ranked penalty kill in the NHL. Alex Vlasic is a big part of that. Louis Crevier is a big part of that. Jason Dickinson, Frank Nazar, Ryan Green, those guys are big parts of it. Spencer Knight. No one is a bigger reason for that than Ilya Mikheyev. This guy might be one of the best penalty killers I've ever seen. I mean, he's that good. Like people outside of the Blackhawks world. I mean, I have friends who are Leafs fans and Canucks fans. They're people who have had Ilya Mikheyev on their team. They don't even realize what this guy brings the last couple seasons. I mean, he's just turned his game around to a new level since coming to Chicago and scoring 20 goals last year. He's not going to score 20 this year, likely not going to score 20 this year, but he's so valuable. He's one of the most valuable players on this team. Like I said, he is the biggest reason we have the number one ranked penalty kill in the NHL. He's a threat offensively when they're on the penalty kill. He's fast as ever. He takes the puck to the net. He brings it every single night. There are a lot of guys on this team who don't bring it every single night. He is not one of them. He helps the culture. He helps you, and he helps you win games. And that's a position the team's going to be in next year. They're done rebuilding. They don't want to lose anymore. This team wants to win games, and this team wants to make the playoffs next year. And Ilya Mikheyev can and will help them do that. So they need to re-sign Ilya Mikheyev. He should not be traded. The argument of you need roster spots for guys like Frondell, Kansterov, Lardis, all that. Kansterov might not even be here next year. Lardis could need more. It's unlikely, but a guy like Lardis could need more AHL time. Colton Dach can go down to the AHL. Landon Slaggert could get moved or go down to the AHL. Those guys might not be part of the long term future. Uh, yeah, I know it's crazy to think, but what if Anton Frondell needs AHL time? You can't bank on all these guys being immediately hitting their stride the second they get to the NHL. And again, I'm not saying I think like Lardis needing AHL time is likely. We saw what he can do in the NHL this year. I don't think he's going to need AHL time next year, but I'm just saying you never know with young guys. I mean, everyone's development is like this. It's not straight up. It's up and down. And we have two left here. We have Sam Lafferty. Now, Sam Lafferty, with all due respect, I'm sure he's a good guy. I don't give a rat's behind what they do with with Sam Lafferty. I mean, come on. If you've watched the Hawks this year, you haven't watched Sam Lafferty play hockey. I've watched every Hawks game this year. I've barely watched Sam Lafferty play hockey. He's simply just a body. Kyle Davidson likes him. That's why he's here, because they need a body. And fair enough. He knows his role. He knows he's not likely to play most nights, and credit to him, he's fine with that role. But I just they don't need to keep him. They probably aren't trading him because you probably can't really get much for him. He's a guy that sits most, if not every night. So you probably just let him expire and don't re-sign him next year. I mean, that's kind of what I would think the plan is. So there's pretty much nothing there. And Nick Foligno, he's our captain. He has trade value, but I think if I'm Kyle Davidson, first of all, I don't think he gets traded. Because if I'm Kyle Davidson, I'm only trading Nick Foligno if he asks to be traded to a contender. That's the only reason you trade Nick Foligno. Not only because he's your captain, but because this guy has done a lot for this rebuild. He came in to play the role of, yeah, he wasn't captain right away, but to play the role of leader, to play the role of like a father, to play the role of assisting in the players' development. Like he knew what his role was. He's done an amazing job. He's been an amazing captain. He's been an amazing mentor for these young players. He's done a lot for this team in the short time he's been here, and I think Kyle Davidson knows that. The fans know that, and I think they honor that. And by doing so, you don't trade him unless he asks to be traded, and I think you offer him a contract to come back next year. Now, I'm not saying I think he should come back next year. I'm not saying I want him taking up a roster spot next year, but I think just out of respect, Kyle Davidson's probably going to offer that to him. Now, with that being said, I would love to see, if he doesn't retire, I'd love to see him go sign with a contender. If he does retire, I'd love to see him join the team in another way. So nothing but respect for Nick Foligno. I don't want him gone, but he's obviously not part of the long-term future here. And I don't think you trade him. I think you hold on to him, let him play out the rest of the season, let him decide uh, in the offseason going in next season. Does he want to retire? I know he loves it in Chicago. Does he want to retire and stay in Chicago? Does he want to go to a contender? You leave it up to him and maybe offer him a spot off the ice with the Blackhawks. So those are the guys that the Hawks are going to be looking to move at the deadline. I think we have two pretty much surefires in Connor Murphy and Jason Dickinson. Other than that, please don't trade Ilya Mikheyev. Like I said, if you're new here, I am on here after every single Chicago Blackhawks game doing an in-depth post-game show. I'm also live on YouTube for every single Blackhawks game, so be sure to come watch that. If you're a Hawks fan, like, subscribe, send this to a friend because I'm trying to build a small community of Hawks fans here. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. It's in! Bedard! Let's go! Connor Bedard! 1-0. Fuck yeah. Go Mikheyev. Mikheyev's got a lane. Oh, what a shot! Ilya Mikheyev. Let's go. Man, he is so good. If they let him go or if they trade him, I'm going to be... They got to re-sign this guy. What a shot. And a good play. Was that Dickinson that flipped it out to him? All right, 2-on-1 maybe. Nazar, Bedard. Bedard stops up. He's got so much room, and he scores. What a shot from Connor Bedard. My word. That was beautiful. Too bad it doesn't matter. That was such a nice shot. That stop-up toe drag, he loves it. Bang.